What's going on YouTube? WestHobbiesRC. So today we are back with the SAB Genesis build. So we have a brand new Genesis kit here. We have, of course, a Mikado V-Bar Evo. We have a Mikado V-Bar aluminum case. We have the large Mikado capacitor pack backup, the one and only X Nova. We are running the 4530. We have a Hobbywing 260 V5 and a set of Beta Kenneco servos. So this build is for Keith. So Keith, thank you for letting me build your Genesis. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's start building. First step is going to be assembling the transmission assembly and the one-way bearing. Now, these are the same mechanics as the Il-Goblin Raw, Il-Goblin Pro, and the Genesis. All use the same exact mechanics. So you guys, if you want a step-by-step, watch the Il-Goblin Pro build video. You can see exactly how to assemble all that. So I'm not going to go over that in this video because it is all the same mechanics. The only difference is this has a fuselage. All right, so we're going to grab our one-way bearing. Now, there is two one-ways in there. Add a little bit of grease, and this is going to slide into here. Need to put the shim on here first, so get that on. Let's get this assembled and move on to the servos. Got the servos mounted. We got our SAB servo horns on. Our ball ends are at 18 millimeters. Got our anti-rotation bracket on, so that all looks perfect. So now we're going to grab the side plates and start getting those put on. So we got the side plates on, the FBL plate. We got the battery rails in there with the battery release at the bottom. So this is all completed. So now we are going to grab the head part, assemble the head, and then keep moving forward. And if you guys like this Genesis, just wait. We have a super cool project coming. So we got all of our head pieces laid out here. We got our head block with the O-rings, 3 on each side, and those are all with our, of course, micro lube. You guys know the deal. If you watch the channel, that's all I use. We got all of our screws have been cleaned in alcohol and dried off. So those are ready. We got our bearings in the arms, retaining compound on these guys, press fit on these. We got our links made up to about 76 millimeters from end to end. Now we got our bearings laid out in the head as the way that they go. So you got big bearing, a washer, small ID thrust bearing, large ID thrust bearing, and then this one is a ribbed, it's got a lip, and this goes flat side against the head block, that lip towards the actual bearing on the blade grip. So we're going to get this all assembled and see what it looks like when it's built. Got the head completely assembled. We got our swash plate assembled. We got our servo arms, linkages going from arms to swash plate, and of course our X Nova 4530. Again, this is all the exact same as the Il-Goblin Pro, so if you need help with building the Il-Goblin or building any of this, just check out the Il-Goblin Pro. Everything's the same. The only difference is this head block is wider, longer feathering shaft, but everything else is the same. And of course your grip arms are longer, but the principle of building it is the exact same. So now we're going to grab the ESC. And the ESC is going to go here. So we're running a Hobbywing 260 on this model. We have to solder our bullet connectors. We still have to tension our belt. That's not tensioned yet. We got our 2 little 7 millimeter nuts under there. So we got to get that done. Bullet connectors, get the ESC made up. So let's get that done. And then we can move on to what the separate different parts are in the tail and mounting everything to the mainframe. So we are going to start soldering up the ESC next, as we have to solder up our battery. Then we have to put our motor bullets on. Now, I do add a number 4 washer top and bottom of my screws, and then I will cut these screws down. And the reason I add a washer is if you just run the screws through, the ESC can actually pull out and pull right through the screw. I have seen it happen, and I have actually flown a helicopter where it happened, so I highly recommend adding a simple washer top and bottom. So now we're going to mock up our Hobbywing 260 in the airframe and figure out how short we need our wires and start soldering. So we got our ESC wires shortened. We got our connectors all soldered up, our bullet connectors soldered up. Now, one thing I want to go over is even though these bullets push together and they fit nicely, what I like to do is take a piece of 3/8 3-in-1 heat shrink. So this has the glue in it. And I cut pieces that fit over the wires just like this, and then this one goes here, and we shrink this down, and this actually glues the heat shrink. As it shrinks down, the glue comes out. It's a marine waterproof seal, but it will stop these wires from ever pulling apart in flight. It does happen, but it's just a safety precaution. So we're going to heat shrink that down, get our ESC mounted to our mainframe, get our battery connector on, and then we can start building the tail. And ESC is done. We got our wires all soldered up. We put a little piece of Velcro around the wires and a zip tie so that way they don't get cut by the carbon frame. Same on our negative side. So this is all completed. Now we can set the mainframe assembly aside and start building the tail. Now we are starting on the tail, and we have all of our tail parts laid out here. So we have our tail shaft, O-rings into there, tail feathering shaft. We have our little shims on here. We have our ball ends put into the tail grips and our arms put onto our pitch slider. Now remember that the S goes up on the left. There's a recess for the head of the screw to fit in. So S goes up. Now again, this is going to be identical to the Il Goblin Pro video. So if you guys are having a problem or you need help on something, go watch that video. The mechanics are the same too. I know I said a little bit ago that they were a little different. They are identical. So everything would transfer over. So the way we have our tail grips now is we have our screws we cleaned in alcohol, smaller ID, thrust bearing, larger ID, and our shim. So that is exactly how they are going to be assembled. So now get yourself some micro lube. Let's grease all of our bearings up, slide these together, drop them in the tail shaft, get the tail grips on the shaft, Loctite everything down. We got the tail assembly completed. So everything is Loctited down. We have to clean up with some alcohol, but make sure, of course, that everything is smooth. We want the tail to have no grit, no binding, a smooth motion. So that is all done. Belt is on. So now we can grab our tail boom and get the casing on the boom, and we can see what this thing looks like. So we got the boom out of the package, and we went and got the push rod guides installed. There's 2 of them, and they go in towards each other. So get those put in, and we also have the double-sided tape put onto these backs, and they are going to get pushed in and stuck down just like that. You can use a screw to push through and help get you started and tighten them down to secure these to make double-sided tape stick. Now, we need to glue the tail fin on the Genesis. So here's your tail fin, and this needs to get glued onto here just like this. Manual says to use a silicone type glue. You can use a silicone glue, I guess. You could use CA or epoxy. I will be using epoxy. Regardless of what glue you use, we need to mark this up. So take a piece of sandpaper, an X-Acto knife, and cut a bunch of slots. Just kind of work your way through, mark this surface up real good. You might even want to drill a couple holes in it. Do the same on this side, and that gives the glue a bonding agent. If you just glue this on, it's sticking to paint and it's not going to be a mechanical bond. We need it to be a mechanical bond. So mark it all up, sand it, drill a couple holes in it, very little holes. Don't go too deep, just a couple little holes to give the glue something to bite and bond to. So let's get that done, and then we can put our tail casing on. So I got holes drilled. I marked up the edges, so everything is cleaned with rubbing alcohol. Got a couple holes drilled in that. We got some holes drilled in here. You can see how the paint flakes off of the carbon. So we want to get all of that off that we can so we have a good mechanical bond. So that's going to glue into here just like that. Now, I will be using some Loctite 9462 pre-mixed. This is an awesome little epoxy gun made by 3M. So if you guys are going to do a lot of epoxy, these tips are cheap. You can throw them away when you're done. It pre-mixes as it comes out. So we're going to get our alcohol ready. We're going to get our paper towels ready. When we put our epoxy into here and we smush it together, it's going to smush out. So you use rubbing alcohol and a paper towel, and that will give you a nice clean the joint when you're done, and you'll get a perfect clean epoxy joint all around and don't have to worry about excess. So let's get this glued together. We'll get it taped together so that way this bond stays while it cures, and let's get the tail mounted. Got the tail fin on, got our tape to hold it while the epoxy cures. We got our actual tail mounted, so that is all completed. So now we are going to mount the tail onto the mechanics and start doing our push rod and all of that and wait for this to cure. Then we can peel the blue tape back off and we can see how that looks. But you can tell the glue joint is very clean, no excess, no runoff. Before we put the boom on, we need to install our tail servo. So we're running the Theta 782 for tail, 18 millimeters SAB horns, and on this particular servo, long mounts and the ball facing towards the frame. Now, one thing, since I've built so many of these ill goblins and now the Genesis, which is the same thing, put your servo on the mount and leave it loose. So that way this can kind of wiggle around. Then we're going to set our servo, and we want the spline to the back. So it's going to go in there just like this. Tighten your outside screws, these 4 down, and then come back and tighten your servo screws. We're going to install the boom now. One thing I wanted to go over was the screws that we use on the boom. So you get 4 screws, and then you're going to have these little shims. I just dropped the one, but here's the other one. So you're going to have these little shims, and these guys go into the front. So they push and lock down just like that to center the screw. And then the other one, which is a standard screw, is going to go right through the back of this and then screw right down to the frame side here, and here. So get your belt routed, make sure your belt is straight before putting it in, give it a half twist, and then when the head rotates clockwise, we need the tail to rotate counterclockwise. So let's get the boom onto the main frame. So we are going to install the belt tensioner, which is this guy here, and then the idler bearing. Now, there is no difference in this here as well as the idler bearing as the ill goblin to KSC. So if you guys, again, need help or don't know how to assemble this, check out the Ill Goblin Pro build video, step by step. So the only difference between this bearing and this assembly is you don't just screw the bolts right on like you do on the Ill Goblin Pro. You have these little shims, these little spacers. You can see I mocked it up here. So you're going to put your screw through this little brass shim on each side, and then put your idler on one side and your tensioner on the other side. So this is the side with the battery latch, as you can see right here. So this is the side that gets just the idler, and the tensioner side is on the opposite side, which if you're looking for the tail, the left, if you're looking from the nose, on the right side, opposite side of the battery release. So just make sure when you're pulling the tail casing box backwards that you kind of walk it left and right. And again, we show all this if you need help, but it's super simple. Just loosen 2 of these screws in the back. You just walk it left and right till you tension the belt. Now, the important thing is we need the belt to be about 0 on the tension. So we're a little bit loose on this, so we can tighten it up just a little bit, but that is done. Secure those down. Now we have the push rod. We have all of our parts laid out here. We are going to use retaining compound to get the push rod ends into the push rod, let that cure, and then put our ends on. Your bearing is going to go on from the bottom. You're going to twist it, lock it in. Make sure that the open side of the bearing is facing the actual main pulley, and the lip side is facing down towards the battery tray. So we got our mount in place, Loctited down. We got this cross mount in place, Loctited down. We also got our push rod ends on, our servo 90 degrees. Our push rod ran through our clips and back to our actual belt crank. So now that this is all completed, now we have our next bag, which is page 28, and these are the side screws. So we're going to get the side panels out and get the panels put onto here, get them tightened down. We can flip it over and start getting the landing gear on this thing. Side frame plates are on. So just like a Kraken, you slide them through, 2.5 millimeter driver, tighten them down, Loctite your screws. You have a hole on the other side for your actual battery release. So those are done. Boom is on. So it's starting to look like a helicopter. So now let's grab the skids and get those assembled so we can get it sitting on its skids. Now we have our skid parts laid out here. So we're going to start with the canopy front mount with this little spacer block. So if you notice, there's lock nuts, no Loctite. This little spacer block is going to go into here just like this. So you have 2 screws in the front and then 2 screws through these holes. And then this whole assembly, you'll see the skids have multiple holes, will bolt on like this from the bottom. This will already be bolted on. It'll look like that. And then these guys are spacers. So the way this works, in the back, they're going to go here. Now they're here so you can space the tail off the ground. So there's 2 of them if you want to go higher, or 1. I'm just going to go with 1 just to get the tail a little bit off the ground so it's not beating on the tail fin on landing and takeoff. But if you want it higher, take this 2, or if you don't want them at all, don't add them. So I'm going to add 1. And then you have these little guys, just like a normal SAB skid. They're going to get Loctited, and they're going to go on the outsides with the lock nuts towards the inside. So let's get all this put together. Skids are complete. So you can see how it all goes together there. I got the 1 spacer in the back, 1.5 millimeter driver on the outside screws, 2 millimeter driver for these 4 and the 4 in here. So now we are ready to take the actual helicopter, and we're just going to bring it into here just like this, and we are going to set it down into its place, run our screws from the outside, and it is officially sitting on its skids. And the Genesis is on its skids. So we have all of our bolts tightened down. Remember, these are lock nuts, so don't use Loctite on these bolts here. It is sitting there. Everything is good. We got our extra large Mikado capacitor pack under here. We did get the fly barless mount mounted. So just like a traditional every SAB, there's little rubber standoffs. Put those down, Loctite, FBL mount is there. The antenna mount on these go here and here, and they kind of come back and out. So they want you to mount the fly barless unit with the antenna's rear to go through the mount. So we got to look at that for wiring. Our tail servo leads here. So now we are at the stage where we can figure out how we want to mount the fly barless unit. If we want the antennas to go back or forward, normally I do forward up to the mount that's here. But because the mount's back here, we got to play with that. But it is on its skids. I am happy with how high the tail fin is off of the ground. So that is perfect. So that looks good. No worried about the tail fin, it resting on it. And it's got a little bit of room there for the blades can never touch. So let's get the V-Bar Evo mounted. We got a nice orange case. Keith wanted to go with orange, so we got a nice orange case that matches the Genesis Sport. And we can start wiring this thing up, put a canopy on it, and see what it looks like. So let's get it all wired up. We got our V-Bar Evo mounted, and the case is so bright. There it goes. Now we can focus. So V-Bar Evo is mounted in the aluminum case. It is the orange case. Not the exact orange, but at least it looks good. It looks a lot brighter on video than it does in person. It's a lot darker in person, so it's not too bad of a contrast. We got the antenna mount on, so just 2 screws. The antennas are coming straight back. There was no way to flip the FBL around and run the antennas the same way, or could have went with a regular mount, but we're just going with what comes in the kit. So now we are going to start our wiring. So of course this is tail servo. This will be on its own independent, so it'll just be nice and go right into channel, or to the second port, which is tail right there. And then we'll do the same like we always do. So we'll start here, run our wires up. We got our capacitor leads here, which will both have to be extended because these are going to go up into the harness and be like a junction piece. And then these will go, which you can tell they are too short. So we'll extend those, run our servos. Of course, this is 1, 2, and 3 into the FBL unit. So one's going to go straight here. And we'll do the same way we wire it, but instead of there being a nice swoop over, it'll just be come out of here and then kind of 90 over into the fly barless unit. Same with our telemetry lead. Run our telemetry lead from the FBL all the way up to our hobby wing. So let's start wiring this thing up and see what it looks like. We are getting the wiring underway. So again, on V-Bar, servo 1, servo 2, servo 3. So servo 1 is going to come up, nice little swoop right into channel 1. The tail servo is going to come up. We put some edge protector just in case. It should never touch or rub, but you never know. I want to be extra safe. So that goes right into tail, real nice and clean. Servo 2 comes across into 2, 3 into 3. And then this one, that's a cutoff wire. That's the excess from the tail servo. And we needed to extend our capacitor back up anyways. So that'll be perfect. Give us a nice, perfect, clean solder joint right there. And that will get our back up into channel 4. Doesn't matter which plug it goes into. And then our telemetry lead is going to have to be extended because we're going to come out of the capacitor pack. These will all be covered in heat shrink. And this will join our throttle and BEC line, and we'll put some nice junction pieces to join these 2 hex sections together. On your capacitor pack, make sure you plug into the top port for your telemetry, the one with the sticker. That's one that the telemetry lead goes into. This bottom one is a pass-through. So we could technically take our telemetry lead from here to here, make a nice short run, and that way it's only one telemetry plug, which we have to extend this. We're going to do that. So let's get this line soldered. Extend this one. We have a section of wire right here, so we're going to extend this one. We're going to get this soldered up, get these covered in heat shrink, start laying out our lines, figure out where they're going to go, heat shrink them, shorten them, and let's see what this thing looks like. Wiring is complete. So we got everything going right into our V-Bar Evo, real nice and clean. We ended up trimming just a little bit off of this wire guide here because it stuck out to about here. So we just trimmed off just a little bit to give it a more clean look. Everything is running through like it should. Got our fans wired up, double-sided tape to the Y harness, and then that to our telemetry lead. Junction here, we got our heat shrink here from our capacitor backup pack into our wire channel and back. So now we also got some fabric paint on the antenna mounts, so that way the antennas can't come out. So that is all completed. So now we are going to get the blades on it, get the canopy on it, and see what this thing looks like all finished up. Blades are on and the canopy is mounted, and this thing looks incredible. Look at the size of this guy. The SAB Genesis Sport. So we have the tail blades on. We have our main blades, which are the SAB 747Ss. So this thing is just enormous with that full fuselage, that full canopy look. It would look incredible clear coated, but it all went together. There's our antennas coming out the back. You can also see that we added the one shim, so our tail is plenty of clearance, about 2 hand widths off the ground. So that way the tail is plenty high. You don't have to worry about it hitting anyways, but that just gives you more tail clearance for flying in grass. So we are done with the build of the SAB Genesis Sport. So this model went together very well. Really no difference between the Il Goblin. Mechanics are all the same. Different frame sides, different flat barless mount, and of course fuselage, the canopy boom and frames. But great machine, perfect for F3C flying. Stay tuned because we have another one of these guys in the box, and we're going to do something super cool with it. So you guys stay tuned for that. I can just tell you it won't be electric and it won't be nitro. So it's going to be a cool project. I'm excited to start that. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching this little build video. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Take care and have a great day.